welcome to the Liberating Joy in Learning podcast. I'm Robert Beckshan, and today we're going to start a new season in our podcast that we mentioned a little bit at the end of our last episode. And it really is just a new category in our podcast that we're calling life experiences. In this podcast season, we're going to talk about life experiences that help us understand learning better. Now, life is full of opportunities to do things that don't feel much like learning. We get up in the morning, we fix meals, eat, clean up. We go about our day doing what needs to be done to take care of the needs that we have. What feeds our souls, however, is when we're able to step beyond that to learn and experience something new, even if it's just experiencing something in a new way. We've talked a lot about disc golf in this podcast because that has become Verena and I's opportunity to do more than just take care of needs. We've set aside a lot of time that we could be working in our yard or home in order to practice and improve our golfing skills, which feeds our souls and helps us see aspects of learning clearly that just daily living doesn't allow us to see very well. So, question that we have is, what do you take time to do because it feeds your soul and helps you experience something new? Do you do that? Is the question.
I hope everyone does.
Right.
Because you're feeding your soul is a need in addition to, making your bed or washing clothes or whatever. It's a need that everyone has.
Right.
So for me, it's learning liberated work.
Right.
And, it's my calling, it's my mission. And when I'm doing it, I'm in tune with that best part of myself that God has given me. So that's one thing. Also observing plants. Now, the plants in my own home only recently have been enjoyable to look at because I feel fairly successful at keeping something alive. But just getting out, one of the reasons we love disc golf is because we get a chance to just be out in nature. And occasionally I'll even stop that and be like, whoa, this view is so pretty. And I have a couple of pictures that I've kept because I just love nature and how it does things.
Right.
How about you?
Well, of course, disc golf is the example that we're using. That's one thing that I do. I've started, like I've discussed before, my desire to learn to play the guitar. I've started getting back into that again. And so that, I read a lot, although I haven't read, I've read all my books, so I need to get some new ones or start rereading the ones I already have. So I've read, reading a lot helps me, feeds my soul, gets me out of the normal day-to-day stuff. And so it can be anything. Anything that takes you out of your routine. Listening to music.
There's no rules on this.
No, there's nothing. There's no rules. Going to movies or things like that may help you get out of your routine, but it really does. I think what we're talking about is, especially in this series of podcasts, something that we're doing that we're learning to do. Reading for me helps me get me out of, helps me relax and have time for myself. But I'm not. I just read fiction.
Yeah.
I'm not a big person to read nonfiction like you are, and so it's not. It doesn't quite fit the mold of what we're talking about as far as learning liberated. But finding something that you can challenge yourself and develop a skill or something like that gets you out of your daily routine is what we're talking about.
Right.
Now, one aspect of learning that we've been thinking about as we've been golfing is the importance of choosing tasks that aren't too difficult to do, but that still challenge us. One of the problems, if you choose something that's too difficult, you fail and you don't pick it up again.
Right.
So you have to be able to challenge yourself, but not over-challenge. One of the courses near us that we play quite a lot has made some modifications recently that includes different levels of play. Previously, some of the holes were so long that it was very difficult to feel successful, and we really didn't enjoy playing that course.
No, we didn't. I didn't.
Yeah, I would go and play with my son, but it still wasn't. It was too difficult that I wouldn't see improvement.
Yeah.
Previously, some of the holes were so long that it was very difficult to feel successful. They've added these easier layouts that are it's easier to play and it's easier to see progress, but it still challenges you as you play this course. It's still possible to feel successful with longer and harder layouts at our level, but it's much more difficult
with those harder holes.
Harder rounds.
Yeah,
with those harder rounds.
Layouts.
Now, as we talked about this, Rita and I were discussing what primary lens this experience would fit into. Would it be tuning into learning seasons? Would it be working with resistance?
I remember at the time I was like, oh, maybe tuning into learning seasons, but I was really focused on working with resistance.
Right.
You want the right level of resistance, but also like what season are we in, right? Do I want a really big challenge, or do I want just the challenge, that will, I don't know. I think it's some of both.
Yeah. As we were going through this and thinking about this, it was really a metaphor for I think a number of different aspects of learning and liberating. I mean, you can even, when we're golfing with our son, that's working with a mentor.
Right.
Because he's much more skilled at this, and he's helped us both pick up new skills on this course. So, but as Verena and I were golfing on it, I think that working with resistance is really stands out because as we were golfing on this course, it really stood out to me that working with resistance really fits with what we were going through, because it really emphasized, because what they added, the shorter course made it a little bit easier for us newbies or casual golfers to play. It is still challenging. You still have to make the right throw. You still have to make the right type of throw, but you can see success. You can see improvement. With the standard course the way it was before, it was so difficult to see improvement because it was so difficult.
Yeah.
It was still fun to play, but we wouldn't go back there very often because we knew how difficult it was.
Right.
We had to be in the right frame of mind to try to be able to handle the disappointment of not performing well in some of the longer, more difficult
There's
holes.
There's a season, I'm going to tie it into that, right? There's a season when you're willing to take on those 400 or 500 yard feet holes, but there's other times where I'm like, I'm really happy with just, I do really great under 200 feet.
Yeah.
Between 200 and 300, maybe. Further than that, it's just not as much fun for me.
Right. Because we have another course that we go to that's just a 9-hole course. It's very short. It's a very beginner-friendly course, wide open, not a lot of trees. And that's fun to go to because it's very easy to see progress. It's very easy to feel good about accomplishing, but it doesn't challenge you as much as this other course does since they've added the new holes.
Right.
And you have, for me, I'm excited to play it because I know what I need to do, and if I don't do it quite right, I know what I did wrong, and I can instantly correct it and make the right shot. And that really emphasizes this fact of working with resistance. You want resistance. You want to have things difficult, but it can't be so difficult that you fail all the time, because then you won't pick it up again. You won't pursue it.
Right.
That's why one of the things that we've discussed with before is about goal setting versus setting a process.
Yeah.
I think if you set a process, you're more likely to achieve a goal more than just setting a goal, because there's no way to get, you don't know how you're going to get there, and it's too hard sometimes to achieve that goal.
It's easier to set goals that aren't really within that realm of ability to reach, kind of thing.
Right. So what resistance do you work with that brings you mostly frustration because it's a little too far outside your abilities?
Well, I wrote down gardening, and we have a yard and we take care of it, but mostly we weed and occasionally we fertilize. But when it comes to planting vegetables and all of that, it's partly beyond my ability to care. I like being inside mostly.
Yeah.
So it's outside of that realm that I really want to spend a lot of time on. Like with disc golf, we could get really good, and play those longer holes, but that's just beyond what we care about, right? We want to focus on smaller. And so for me, it's the vegetable gardens, the big old, peas and all of that stuff. It is outside of that ability for me to care.
Well, one of the things that I thought about that was mostly frustrating was trying to play the guitar, because I could never. It was just I wanted this goal of being able to play the guitar, and I've tried a bunch of different things, a bunch of different processes, a bunch of different thoughts, and I'm not getting the progress that I want. Mm-hmm. And I realize it's because I didn't have a process.
Yeah.
And so I've come up with a different process that is challenging, but I'm hoping to see progress. I'm doing things a little bit different that I think will give me the success I'm looking for.
Right. And we don't have processes in place to throw that far.
Right.
Right. I remember as I was thinking through this, especially for the next question you're going to ask, when I was 10, 15 years ago, I started to crochet a whole blanket.
Okay.
And I was like, no, this isn't going to work. And partly because I had little kids, it didn't fit in for a lot of reasons. But in the last, it's still been a few years since I've crocheted a whole blanket, but I got to a point where I could.
Right.
But it was because I was prepared I had a process in place.
Right.
I was able to implement because I didn't have little kids anymore. Of doing that whole long blanket. Right. So there's times, and this is a little bit of owning and setting aside learning that you are ready for.
Right.
But within something that you choose to learn, we're looking at what you attack for that learning, right? With disc golf, we want it smaller. We want to play disc golf. We're owning that learning, but we're not going to do the tournament level play. We're not interested in that.
And because realistically, we're not at that level, and there's
we're not that. No,
and I don't have the desire to get to that level.
No, we don't.
Right. All right. So the next question you kind of hinted at: when have you felt more joy in learning as you found resistance that's within your range of comfortable challenging?
So with plants, I play with them.
Okay.
I'm not doing the full-on garden, but I have a small herb garden in small pots inside, in our family room, and that's my realm, right? I just explore. I'm just playing with it, rather than, hey, I'm going to produce enough tomatoes to be able to can 30 pints, right? That's way outside my range of where I'm at right now, right? And but so I just play with it. So that's how I find joy in going, wow, it's still alive. That's awesome.
Yes.
So another thing that we've learned with disc golf is the value of naming things. Myself, I love coming up with new names for things. In the version, apparently there are many, that I have on my Kindle of the Swiss Family Robinson, I love these thoughts from the dad about naming things. During the meal, I interested the boys very much by proposing to decide on suitable names for the different spots we had visited on this coast. For, said I, it will become more and more troublesome to explain what we mean, unless we do so. Beside which, we shall feel much more at home if we can talk as people do in inhabited countries. Instead of saying, for instance, the little island at the mouth of our bay where we found the dead shark, or the stream near our tent across which we made the bridge, or that wood where we found coconuts and caught the monkey, and so on, let us begin by naming the bay in which we landed. What shall we call it? Unquote. And so after some discussion, they name it Safety Bay. And after some more discussion, they come up with other names for places in the world they had landed on. So back to disc golf. One thing I've recognized while golfing is how emotionally attached I get to my discs.
Yeah.
It's odd. Okay,
yes,
it's just odd. But I'm attached to these discs. I love that they have names on them. I don't know much about regular golf, but they call them irons. I don't know. Yeah. They don't have cool names like Rock and Sapphire and Leopard. I love it.
Yeah.
So when I ask Rob which discs he thinks I should use for a throw, he uses their names and not just your pink mid-range disc. He says your Rock or your Sapphire. I noticed that some discs Rob never suggested that I use, and that it was probably because he didn't know their names.
It's possible.
So there's other ones. I can't remember the names myself offhand either. When we can better understand and name fundamental learning principles, we can use them better.
Right.
So this question, I love this. Okay, what tools do you not use because you don't have names for them?
I don't know of any tool that I don't use I don't know the name for, except for maybe some of the discs in your bag, because I don't use your discs. Even though most of the discs in your bag you got from me that I gave you. But I don't have, every tool that I use, I've got a name for. Some of them come with names, like a speed square, or a bullet level, or a chalk line. Or at work, a scale, which in my line of work is completely different than if you're if you're weighing, it's not for weighing things. It's for something else. So everything that I have has every tool that I use, I have a name for.
This is a terrible question because clearly if you don't know the name, you can't use it.
Right.
Or you don't even know about it.
Right.
The only thing I could think of is, there may be tools that you don't understand as well, and so you don't use them as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking of like repotting, the concept of repotting a plant.
Okay.
I don't understand that. I do on some level, but I don't really know how to recognize it.
Right.
And I'm also fairly cheap, and I don't really buy a lot of pots. And so that's the only thing I could think of. But really, the idea is to know that there are things that you can do that you wouldn't be able to, that if you understood it better, you would do it more.
Right.
Right. If you understood it, if you had a name for it, that you would do it more.
Right. And I think that's why we've been going through this process with these principles is giving something a name is powerful. And if it's not named, then you're not going to think about it. You're not going to use it.
Right.
And so having these names, working with resistance, tuning into learning seasons, and I've forgotten mine just went blank on the other ones.
Right.
But it's important that we have these names so that you're able to realize the importance of these concepts and these tools and use them correctly.
Right. And, I have been, these are things that I've developed over the last, over 10 years, over a decade. And, if I look back at my notes, I did not understand them as well 10 years ago or even 8 years ago. I understand them better now because I've been using them and I've been talking about them.
Right.
And so the more you use a tool, the more you talk about it, the more you share it with other people, the more you learn from a mentor about them, the better you can use them.
Right.
And that's just the way it is with any tool. You have to use it. You have to see others use it. And that's the law of tools.
Yeah.
So also just a note, I will edit a lot of this out, but I do have this random cough that will come in. And so I will edit it, but not all of it's going to leave.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
just to put that out there. Anyway, so that wraps up our first Life Experiences episode. As always, if you have questions or comments, message us at learningliberated@gmail.com or message us on our Learning Liberated Facebook group with any questions or comments. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else that might enjoy it as well.